something different this week. You want to know why your packages are late? It's not my fault. I'm doing my part. Picking up some empties and bobtailing back. Pays pretty dang good, but the best part is it's really easy on my truck, so I like it. Sunrise over Houston, Texas. We're back. Sitting here in the dark, winding down. It's been a long day. As you can see, I'm doing something a little different this week, and I did last week as well. I'm doing some FedEx loads, and it's power only. Basically, picking up an empty trailer, taking it about 250 miles and bobtailing back. And these loads sort of kind of fell in my lap. A couple weeks ago I was doing some military stuff, and the agent was there and asked me if I'd seen those loads on the load board. I guess he was having trouble getting rid of them for some reason. And so we talked about it, and it just seemed like a real good idea. It pays pretty good. It's a average week as far as pay goes, but it's real, I get good fuel mileage. It's easy on the truck, and not far from home, so I jumped on it. And I'm going to talk about those numbers in a little bit, and go over my numbers since I've been here at Mercer. Since this is the second part of the video, is it worth it being an owner operator? And I stress that to me it was, just for freedom's sake, and then it does pay good. So I'll tell you what I've been making over here. But first, I've only been driving a truck for 5 or 6 years. I can't remember now, but I've had regular jobs. After I got out of the military, I went to work for a few different companies, and then I got on with AT&T back in the mid-90s, and I stayed there nearly 17 years, around 17 years. And for the first 15 years, I was in what was called craft job, and I was at top pay for the non-management jobs. And when I left there, I was making around $34 an hour, which was good money. And the whole time I was there, the union, would let you know that you would never get a job making that kind of money anywhere in the world. And don't even try, and you should be kissing their boots that they got you that money and all these good benefits. And I fell for it for a long time. It was a good paying job, and especially having that type of job around where I lived in East Texas when I ended up my career. But there aren't that many jobs paying that good around there. And I would say that I was home every day, but it was basically to wake up, go to work, and then come home, go to sleep. Always being forced to work overtime. Didn't have any choice in the matter. The only good thing about the company is the friends I made over there. I never really enjoyed it. I'd been doing that same exact type of work for 7 years before I hired on to AT&T. So it got really old, and there was just, there was you couldn't advance. You couldn't make any more money. The only way you make more money is to kill yourself working overtime. And everybody made the same amount. And, they had that wage table that, you got to a certain point, and that was it. And so, around the 15-year mark, I took a management job, and it would have been a job that I would have really enjoyed. But the second line manager was a butthole. He had the little man's complex, and his ego was bigger than he was, and it just made going to work, I didn't enjoy it. A job that I should have enjoyed it just, I didn't want to be there. And so I moved on from there. And I guess, thanks to that guy being the way he was, it forced me to make a decision. And so I moved on. I took a job offshore as an ROV pilot. Really cool job, a good paying job, extremely challenging, very technical job. But again, after I was in it for a while, I enjoyed the work, but I didn't have any control. Had to go where somebody else wanted me to go, do what they wanted me to do, when they wanted me to do it, how they wanted me to do it. And after about a year and a half doing that, I realized, I needed to do something different. And some of my family had been in trucking. My uncle ran a trucking company. My dad drove a truck for years off and on. My other uncle did hotshot work. I drove some heavy equipment in the military. So, it wasn't a big leap for me to start thinking about that. And while I was working offshore, I'd do some research. And then at one point, I knew I was going to be coming home for a 4-week period. So I enrolled in a CDL class, got my license, CDL license, and went to work back offshore on my old job and did some more research. And then at some point, I just decided to take the leap and quit that job and just started driving a truck full time. And I knew where I wanted to be, where I wanted to end up, I should say. And it took me a while to get here. I started off as a lease operator, and that was great, made decent money. Just didn't have the freedom. But I was learning. And, for some people, they can probably, there's people that jump right out there into it and become owner operators right off the bat. But for me, I went the longer route, but for me, it worked out. It took 2 years of, being a lease operator and saving some money to be able to get my own truck and head on over to Landstar. I'd gotten my authority, but I ended up not using it, and I went to Landstar. So, man, the freedom when you do that, your whole mindset changes, because when you're at those other companies, when you're empty, you roll those dice. You're sitting there waiting on the Qualcomm to tell you what you're going to do and where you're going to go, and it's very seldom it's something you want to do. But when you start making the choices, it changes your perspective, it changes your mindset, and all of a sudden those menial tasks, you look forward to them in most cases. So that's just like everybody else. I've been at those jobs where while you were in them, you were in your groove. You thought, things are going good. If I could only work a little bit more overtime, save up a little more money for this or that, and but I finally broke out of that. So here I am, owner operator, and been doing it for several years now. And talking to a friend of mine yesterday, we discussed how that first year and a half is stressful, because you're learning a new skill. You learn to operate a business. All those things that go with that, and at the same time, trying not to run over something, or you're trying to do everything the right way, learn the right way to do it, and get to where you wanted to go. And it's stressful, it's difficult, but it can be done. If I've done it, anybody can. And so having said all that, I'm gonna go over my numbers. So a few days ago, I hit my 6-week mark with Mercer, and I'll show you. I've got this all written down on a piece of paper, and I'll take a picture of that and put it up. But I'm right at the 6-week mark. My earnings with Mercer were a little over $31,000. And so I just kind of rounded down and said, basically I was bringing in $5,000 a week. And when I looked at my miles, if I added my loaded miles, which Mercer computes that, your loaded miles, and then if I added in whatever I thought my deadhead miles were, I haven't kept real good track of that, but it comes out to be 2,500 miles a week, loaded and deadhead miles, which is about $2 a mile for every mile I've traveled in this truck. So $5,000 a week gross. And when I was first doing my research on all this, it was very difficult to, I'd watch these YouTube guys and they were saying how much they make, but it didn't make any sense to me, because one person's gross and what they did throughout that week would be, it was completely different than what I might be thinking or what somebody else might be thinking or done. So I'm gonna try to break it down for you. Now over here at Mercer, when I say my gross is $5,000 a week, that's how much I make. That's how much they pay me. When I was over at Landstar, just for comparison, if I said I gross $6,000 a week, that would be a different figure, because over there, when you take a load off the load board, it might say $1,000, say, for the load, but Landstar hasn't taken their cut out of that yet. So it ends up, your real gross is really $700 once they take their 27% or whatever it was. So over here, when I tell you my gross, that's how much I'm paid for that load after Mercer takes their cut. So when I'm grossing $5,000 a week, I have to pay for my own fuel out of that. And if you consider 2,500 miles a week on average, and what my truck gets as far as fuel mileage, I'm spending, depending on how good of a discount I get, just say an average of up to $600 a week. It's been a lot less than that, but that's just a good average. So most trucks don't, might not get good fuel mileage, or people drive faster, what have you. But so that is the big cost for me during the week. So $600 for that. And then maintenance, if anything went wrong, and here and there I've had a few things go wrong and paid for that on the way. And then my fixed costs, which I do not have my trailer. I have my truck paid off, but my trailer, I'm leasing that from Mercer, and that's about $200 a week. And then my insurance and all the little things like the ELD and every little thing, tags and all that they charge you for. So my fixed costs are, about $250, $60 a week, something like that. So about $1,000 a month. So break it down again to weekly. So basically about $850 of that $5,000 comes out of my pocket. So I'm only bringing, depending on what my maintenance was and whatever other tolls and all that I paid. So you get the picture. So 5,000 gross, and then whatever you have to take out for fuel and fixed costs. I would say that that is probably an average week. Maybe slightly above average. I only say that because a lot of the guys that come to companies like Mercer, they've already got their truck paid off and their trailer paid off, or they're in a real good situation where they don't have to run, and so they bring the average down a lot. I would say, they can sit at home for 4 or 5 days and then just wait for a call for the best load they can get and make one or two good runs every couple of weeks. So there are a lot of those guys over here that do that, and you can still bring home good money doing that, especially if you don't have a lot of fixed costs. So yeah, $5,000 a week, I'd say maybe around average or slightly above average. Person coming over here can, definitely make more than that a week, if you're smart about it and you don't mind running. Since I've been here, and that's 6 weeks, I've been away from home on 2 weekends, and basically did a reset in another state. But I've been home almost every weekend. I've been home throughout the week several times, and in that time I took off, I think, 5 days for Thanksgiving. So add that in there, and then probably the biggest thing that affects my bottom line is where I drive. And I have since I do have a lot of freedom over here, I choose not to drive in certain areas. I don't go to the Northeast, I don't go to the East, I don't go to the Southeast, I don't go to Chicago, Detroit, Los Angeles, Washington, Oregon. So the places that I prefer to drive, I can make a good, a good wage going out there, but coming back, I might end up having a deadhead a long ways or taking a cheap load. And when I'm doing that, I'm just praying that I do find something that pays halfway decent just to get me back home. And that's just my preference. I lose money by doing that, but I'm going, where I want to be. I have no intention of driving up north in the Northeast, especially in wintertime. I don't enjoy paying the tolls. I don't enjoy the traffic. And so that's those, few things really affect my bottom line, taking off a lot of time and the places I like to drive. So if you don't mind, where you go, if you don't mind staying on the road, your average is going to be well above that.